Hey guys, welcome back to season 3, episode 2 of Flip Tip Fridays. I hope you guys liked last week's episode, but I am super duper excited for this week's episode because it was something that's been requested a bunch of times from last season and this season, and I figured it was about time we do the video. So today's video is going to be all about how to properly stretch your feet in order to gain a better arch or foot flexibility. So we'll be going through all of my foot stretches and regimen that my mom has taught me through dance and everything like that. So let's get to it.
Okay, so if you're a twirler, I personally like to take my jazz shoes or twirling shoes off for my foot stretches and foot exercises, just because it makes me feel like I have a little bit more mobility. But the first thing we're going to be doing in today's video is sitting on both knees, and we're going to go over top of our right toe. Just like I am in the video. And it's really important that when you're doing this, you'll notice that I place my hand on my ankle. This is to, number one, keep my ankle inward so that I'm not sickling my foot. And I'm also using it to push my heel forward to maximize the stretching. We will do the same thing on the left foot as well. Next, we're going to go over top of both feet. And when you do this, make sure that you're keeping your toes touching as well as your ankles touching. We want there to be no space in between your feet when doing this exercise. And make sure that when you're doing this, you're pushing your heels all the way forward. I like to use my bum to help me with that. I sit all the way forward onto my heels so that they have no other option than to push forward. This next exercise might be a little bit of a challenge if you've never done ankle strengthening exercises before, but we're going to go back to that same position where we're sitting over both toes. And then we're going to I start with my right foot, so I'm going to take my right foot out of that position and lay it on the floor straight in front of me with a straight leg. And I'm going to do 10 batmas, so 10 kicks straight up to the sky. In the video, I only demonstrate 2 so that the video doesn't go on forever. But make sure that when you're doing this, you do this 10 times on both sides. It's really important that our base foot that we're balancing on does not sickle. We want our ankle to stay straight up and down. Now, this next one may seem a little silly, but I think it's a really great strength builder for your ankles. So we're going to sit down and place one of our feet straight out in front of us. Then we're going to spell out the alphabet with our foot. So you're going to pretend to draw every single letter in the alphabet. You're going to go through the whole alphabet once on each foot. Now, this next portion of the exercises are feet articulations. So this is going to be working the control of our feet. I sit down and place both feet out in front of me and flex them as hard as I can, trying to get my heels completely off of the ground. I then push through to what I call a Barbie foot. So I'm pointing my arches but not my toes, just like a Barbie doll's foot. Complete this skill about 10 times. We then work our articulation in a different way. So we're going to do the opposite of a Barbie foot. So we go from our flex-footed position, and then we curl just our toes. Trust me, it feels super duper yucky and super duper weird. But we curl just our toes, and then we lower our arches into our toe point, and then pull back to just curled toes. You should already feel some improvement within your toe point if you just sit down and point your toes. But I like to sit down and test my foot flexibility at this point in the exercises. So I just choose one foot and put it out in front of me. I flex super duper hard, roll through my Barbie foot into a super nice pointed toe. Go ahead and try this and see if there's been a change in your toe point so far within the exercises. We'll be doing this exercise again later at the end of the video, just so that we can see how our toe point has progressed throughout the video. Okay, so for this next exercise, we're going to start in a downward dog position, lowering our heels, so trying to push our heels flat against the floor. Now, we're going to releve as high as we can, keeping straight knees, yet pushing our heels as far over our toes as they'll go. Sounds kind of challenging, but if you try it, you'll understand what I mean. So we do about 10 releves, pushing our heels as far forward as we can. And then while we keep those heels pushed as far forward as we can, we then lower our knees to the ground, so bend our knees. While we do this, it's really important to remember that we still need to be driving our heel over our toes. Make sure you are doing 10 releves, followed by 10 knee drops. And now we go into our downward dog position, but over our toes. Once we are in this position, we then drop our knees down, similar to what we did before, but this time we're trying to get the top of our arches completely flat against the floor. Once we do that, we then pop back up to straight legs, and we walk our hands in towards our feet. As with most of the skills we've done in the video, you're going to repeat this one 10 times as well. So next we remain in our downward dog, but this time we're going to take turns kicking our base leg. So I personally do my right leg first, and I take my left leg and kick it up to the sky 10 times. Now, yes, we want to get into a full split, but remember, this is a foot exercise, so we're really focusing on our base foot that's stabilizing us. We want it to have the highest releve possible while keeping our heel pushed as far forward as possible, like we did in the previous exercises. So that means if you don't hit your full split, that's totally okay. And make sure you do this exercise 10 times on both sides. Now, these last few exercises we're going to do not only work your feet, but they will also work your core strength. So we're going to start by standing up. They travel a little bit, but not too far. We're going to start by standing up and go into our releve with our ankles and toes together. I personally like to keep my rib cage closed and my arms straight out to my sides. And if you've ever taken a ballet class, you'll know what I mean when I say rib cage closed. And if you don't, essentially just tighten your core. We're going to start with releve walks. I take these walks, and as I transition my weight, I roll through my base foot. So if you'll notice, when I'm swinging through for my next step, I'm rolled over my arch, stretching out my foot. This next one is very similar, but instead of plain steps, we step out and drop down into a lunge. We make sure that our back knee just about touches the floor, and then we stand back up into fifth position. Our ultimate goal here is to keep our core so tight that we don't wobble at all. And trust me, it can be a challenge sometimes, but after you do it a few times, you'll get really comfortable with it and know what muscles you need to use to remain stable. Next, we take the exact same steps, but instead of doing plain steps or lunges, we do a 90-degree battement. So yes, I know, a lot of us can battement much higher than 90 degrees. But the point of this exercise is for control and core strength. So we only need to kick to 90 degrees. After each kick, it's really important that you close back down into fifth position. If you don't do that, we're kind of defeating the purpose of it. And the last exercise we're going to be doing is what my mom and I call elephant walks. So you put your feet and ankles together and your hands on the floor. You then move your hands out away from you and take whichever foot you please, and with a straight knee, step through your hands. And I know it looks really silly, and it feels really silly too, but it's a great stretch. The number one rule is to keep your knees straight. If you bend them, you're defeating the purpose, and you're kind of cheating. So, even if you have to take your hands off the floor a little bit because it's so hard, I'd rather you keep your legs straight. Next, we're going to be doing the same thing. So we're going to be doing elephant walks, but incorporating big kicks into our splits in between each one. So think hands out, step in, big kick. Hands out, step in, big kick. And last but not least, we're going to be doing 2 sets of elephant walks, followed by grabbing our ankles into 2 releves. So this one's just a little bit of a challenge core-wise because you're not standing upright, and to balance on releve while bent over can be a challenge, especially at first. So last but certainly not least, we go ahead over to a wall for these last few ankle strengthening exercises. There's some things in here that'll stretch your feet as well, but it's also really important that we have ankle strength. So let's get started. So you walk over to a wall and you can place both feet side by side. I then lift one of them and place them in coupe. and do 10 releves, getting our heel as high as we can off the floor. I do 10 releves on each side. I then go into releve with both feet flat on the floor. I place one foot over my toes, so one foot's in releve and one foot is rolled over, pushing my ankle as far forward as possible. When you first go into this, it is okay to bend your knees, but once your feet are in the proper positions, I want you to try to straighten up and lock both of your knees. You should feel the stretch in front of the foot that's rolled over. Make sure to do this on both sides. Now, next in the video, it's kind of hard to tell, but we go into releve with both feet flat on the floor. We go into releve, lift our heels as high as we can, and push those heels forward as far as possible. You can then bend your knees and push your ankles even further forward. So similar to what we did in our downward dog when we lowered our knees to the floor, but this one's going to be upright. So really just think about driving the front of your ankle as far forward as possible. You might feel the stretch in your Achilles a little bit, or maybe even in your arch or your toes. And if you're feeling up for the challenge, you can then stand over both toes for 30 seconds. Now, as a final check-in, let's go back to sticking one of our feet out and rolling through our toe point to check and see if there's been improvement.
Thanks for watching this week's episodes of Flip Tips Fridays. If you liked today's video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions about what we covered in today's video, be sure to leave it in the comments down below, or feel free to DM me on any of my social media accounts linked in the description below. And be sure to get your requests in for future Flip Tip Fridays, as there's only 8 more left in the season. So if you want your skill covered, be sure to get it in as many times as possible. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.